Hello, hello. Welcome back, everyone. Sam is recording something else today. Daniel, unfortunately, is sick with a stomach bug, and Jonathan is spending some time with his family. So, today on the feed, we just have myself, Mary, and Lucas. Thanks for joining me, guys.
Of course.
So, for anyone who was here yesterday, you saw the full picture. Today is just the three of us talking a little bit about uh, what we're in the middle of right now and what's going on. And that's a slightly different conversation, but let's see where it leads us. So I think there's three threads that I want to pull on today. What the signal actually looks like for this week as we release these new tools. Um, I think also what we can continue to learn from these releases, and then I'll just open it up for anything that you guys want to discuss. So first of all, I want to start with you, Lucas. um, Yesterday, Sam said that the signal we want is users' eyes lighting up, not product hunt ranking, not someone using the thing and not wanting to go cold on us. You're shipping something this week. What kind of reaction are you hoping for, or what kind of signal?
Yeah. I'm shipping a few things this week. One of them is like just installing Hermes on a Raspberry Pi. And it's not very sexy. It's just like here's a simple tutorial about how to do something. And so I guess what I'm hoping for is just having like any anybody being like, oh, this is like actually interesting. This is actually helpful for me. Um, and like kind of spurring ideas about how to use Hermes in like a in kind of different ways. Like once it's on a Pi, then it's like, you can connect it to a screen and it can be a dashboard on your refrigerator, or there's just a bunch of different other like, you know, my dad has a Raspberry Pi that's connected to a bunch of different like sensors around his house to like to detect the temperature of his fireplace or whatever, so just trying to get people to help people get down kind of further down that road of like hacking away at something that's interesting to them.
Okay. Um, I'm sure that our audience are familiar with a Raspberry Pi, but just to kind of give people an understanding, is this something that people should want in their lives? A Raspberry Pi is just like a piece of hardware, right? That allows you to
Yeah,
interface with these tools, right?
yeah. It's like a very inexpensive computer that's a really small comes in like a really small box, and it's they're pretty powerful these days, but that's kind of like the hacker community has rallied around it, and there's a bunch of different external devices like the temperature thing or light sensors or cameras like that you can kind of add to these things and kind of hack together your own anything really.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, so obviously with the kind of signal that you're going to get is from people who actually own Raspberry Pis, right? Which already starts to kind of, does that somewhat limit the signal that you can get?
Yeah, I mean it's definitely, I would say it definitely limits it. um that's why I think we're trying to take like a few different shots. So one's like that Raspberry Pi Hermes thing. Another one is just like, oh, now you can use iMessage with your with Hermes, which is generally, I mean, like actually kind of novel. Like we have a nice API set up so that anybody can give their Hermes agent a actual phone number and they can text it. And then we're also just kind of releasing like the API guide to how you can use Cloud Chat as well for anything. So you can have an iMessage phone number and hack it to do whatever you want.
Okay, and again, just to kind of keep our all of our audience with us, what is Hermes exactly?
So Hermes is like a generalized agent that can, it's an LLM, but it's like you can talk to it. It has memory. There's a whole open source community around it with a bunch of different plugins, and you can hook up your calendar to it, your email, like all this stuff. So it's similar to like it's like essentially this. It's very similar to OpenClaw and these other like agents that are kind of designed to be always on and can do stuff like while you sleep and in the background.
Excellent. So between the hardware and the software and the way that you've kind of integrated these, there's obviously utility that you're excited to share, right? So what do you think is the what is your hunch around the general kind of lack of perceived interest that we're getting from some of the releases that we're doing, or is it too early to say that there's a lack of interest in this?
Yeah, I mean, I think what this week boils down to is just like we've worked really hard on trying to create these seeds, and we've been really in the weeds about what a seed is and like really purist about, hey, a seed should have this like very low code, like it's just like software is free now, you should be able to build anything you want just from like pros um and I think that's just kind of like made it so that we're not shipping anything because we're having a hard time creating this beautiful product in this pure form.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, let's just ship what we have. Like, I'm writing these how to's now that have like 100-line code block in it that an agent can look at and just copy and paste, and you know that's much easier to execute on than having a couple paragraphs of English to try to describe what you're doing. And so now we're basically putting the idea of a seed kind of and just as pure prose on hold and just saying, hey, is this worth anything just as the idea? Like, does anybody actually want to have a family assistant life dashboard or, a generalized agent that can work over iMessage?
Got it. Um, so with the release, you're releasing this on Product Hunt, is that right?
Yeah, that's the plan. Yeah.
And how many people do we expect to interface with this release?
I have no idea. I, I've somehow missed out on the last two product hunt launches that we've done, so I don't even know how many upvotes we got on those other ones. But
Mary, do you know how many upvotes we got on the last releases?
Yeah. I'm trying to think back to the plow one because I think that's the last. I like the almanac one. I think we like did on a Saturday. Like honestly, I didn't even know we launched it. I don't think I even upvoted it. So I don't think it got much at all. But the plow launch, oh gosh, I think we made it up to like number 17, 18. We held there for most of the day. So my guess is like north of 100 upvotes.
Okay.
And 20 active paying users. We actually, whenever we launched Plow, we like had kind of like a Plow 100 leaderboard where like there were spots for people to buy into Plow starting at $1 going up to $100. And so I think we got about 20 paying users out of that.
Got it. Okay, so this is a tested and trusted format for releasing these tools and getting a signal, right? There's definitely evidence that this works. If there were are there any other ways that we could be looking at to test and learn from an audience? It seems to me, and I'm coming into this new, right, that there's quite a lot of dependency on one source for our signal, right? Do we know of any other ways that we could test this release?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot. I think that the downside to some of the other ones is just it takes more time. Like this feels a little bit more concentrated. Like we could throw it all out at once in a very developer, like where developers already are, which is on Product Hunt. Like that's our audience at the moment. And like, so we're kind of meeting them where they're at. In the past, we've run like recruitment surveys on Craigslist and got people to come in and talk to us, or there's different user research repositories online that you can kind of pay into and recruit people. But like it's a slower process because you're getting people one-off, you're doing more qualitative interviews, which is super valuable, but you don't always get as strong of a signal right away. I mean, like, there's a reason like hallway testing is a thing too. I mean, we could go walk to downtown Palo Alto and go to a Blue Bottle and probably start talking to people. You know, like there's a lot of things we could be doing right now, for sure, to get this in front of folks. But it's kind of just like you got to identify where your target audience is and how you can get access to them and collect feedback.
Yeah, yeah. I know that you shipped something, or I believe you had something that you shared with your community this week. Is that right, Barry?
Well, I don't know if it was really successful. One thing I've been kind of doing on the side, kind of hacking off of what Lucas is talking about, of like an agent running on a Raspberry Pi and a dashboard and everything. And so I've actually, I think I mentioned this on one of these before, but been using our agent to kind of help plan my wedding. So I'm just like, I've found a huge utility out of it and doing a huge amount of project management for my wedding through agents and having them essentially like build custom UI dashboards for me. Cause like, I'm not a spreadsheet person. Like I'm not good in Excel. Like, that's not how I think and how I organize my thoughts in mind. So I'm literally like chatting with my agents and having them create more visual artifacts, but then also doing a lot of project management, vendor research, managing a budget, like all this kind of stuff. And so I was just curious. I was curious if there's anyone else like planning a wedding using like AI agents to do cool stuff beyond just like, I know like there's some cool products I think that help with like seating charts or like vendor email outreach. Like I was like, I want to like beyond just writing emails for us and like organizing people, like what are people doing? So I posted in a wedding Reddit, and I think that just the general wedding planning audience was not quite ready for an AI post. It got no engagement. Eventually got removed by the moderators. And it was a very tame, it wasn't like I'm using AI to like replace human planners. Like I hired a human planner this week. Like it's very much like I'm using it to facilitate project management within this huge event. And I was just curious how people were maybe doing that too, and just didn't see any engagement. And honestly, what that signal tells me though is not necessarily that no one's doing it, but maybe just like the general population is not like, it's not a niche, you know, it's too wide and too many people that are still kind of adverse to using AI or don't quite understand how to use AI in specific ways. So I think the next steps there are really trying to dig into more like tech forward wedding communities.
Yeah. That is a learning, I think. And I'm obviously anyone who's in the tech industry is very bullish on AI. But do you think this speaks to maybe a broader societal problem around maybe some shifting sentiment towards AI, or is it too early to say that?
Are you like that the sentiment is like embracing it more or not embracing it?
I'm learning like, just as we've seen some evidence around, like as, people go to their graduation ceremonies and then these, people are, showing mentioning the promise of AI and getting booed, seeing some of the kind of feelings from certainly the latest generation that's coming through, that this maybe does pose more of a threat to their livelihood as it's known, because there's a kind of unknown quantity. Do you think that there's, maybe like the initial early adoption excitement that was kind of, widespread has now started to kind of meet a little bit of a kind of counter movement? I don't know. I'm just kind of trying to extrapolate some signal here that maybe I'm jumping to conclusions.
I'm actually curious what Lucas would say here.
Yeah, I think there's a huge counter movement to AI. Like I think we're in the bubble where it's like, we live this every day, and like it's our job to like research it and try to find the best strategies for how to use AI. But like I think the majority of people have a really negative sentiment towards AI. I mean, it's for good reason. Like, these companies are laying off, tech companies are laying off thousands of people at a time, and they're like actively saying it's because they think they can get all these extra efficiencies with AI. And so I think that's kind of course correcting a little bit already, but yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely a reason why within an hour, I don't know if it was before or after that post that Mary did, there was another post in that same community about like literally titled something like "I'm so sick of everything being AI," and it had like 100 upvotes and a bunch of comments, and like that's just, I think, yeah, people are scared of it, and don't see the benefits yet, and there's definitely the opposite side of to where we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
So we'll see.
it's fascinating,
It may
'cause
not be wrong.
I think when people think AI, they think of exactly what was in this post of like, they're like, I'm trying to find hairstyles and everything on Pinterest is AI generated. And like, I'm trying to like this, like running up against like, just like AI created content that just like isn't real, isn't helpful. Like, no, I just need like the human expertise of like what a human can actually do in real life, which like, I totally understand that tension. But then like what I was trying to get at is like, how are we like creating more efficiencies around like this planning process and like alleviating the stress on ourselves by using these tools, not to like replace a human. I'm replacing a spreadsheet, like I'm replacing Excel, like, and my lack of knowledge of Excel with this tool.
Yep. Yes, I think
Yeah,
go ahead.
I was just saying, like, I think with like a lot of things, like politically and otherwise, it's like there's this nature of like it's very easy to go in a camp of like AI is great or like AI is bad, and I don't want anything to do with it. And I think hopefully like what we're trying to do is have a little more of a nuanced conversation of like, sure, AI can produce a bunch of slop, but at the same time, there's like, here are some of the highlights, here are some of the great ways of using it. But I do think a lot of people are just like completely tuned out to AI, and that's like a hurdle that we'll have to get through.
Yeah, I think it's almost time for like AI to almost just be not the leading kind of value or benefit. Like it's just we have to replace the concept of like it's like AI washing that's been going on. I think we just have to put the utility front and center, right? We have to stop saying like it's virtuous because it's AI. Actually, it's virtuous
Right.
because it gives you time back. Never mind that it's AI. That's just
Yeah.
there's implicit value. Yeah, and I certainly feel that. I'm from a content making background, and I have been servicing clients in the marketing and advertising industry, and I've been very much aware of the fact that AI has given us a lot of tools to produce certain content, some at a high level and some certainly slop, and it all comes down to what clients can afford, right? But I am also mindful that as I consume content online, if I see something posing as being real and I can detect that it's AI, I feel a certain anger towards that brand. Like I feel like they're trying to cheat me, right? And I'm also to have this kind of nagging worry about this concept of the dead internet theory. Have you heard that over time, like there's less and less humanity ingrained in actual internet, and we're replacing ourselves, and the internet's going to be something that's so far removed from what we're actually doing. So I think people are obviously reacting to that, and I do think we need to. It's something that we have to take on and take notice of, because if we're trying to bring people utility, then maybe the way that we do it is we just speak, about what it's doing for us and not trying to focus on, the fact that it's AI generated or AI improved, which is hard.
When I reposted that comment and just removed AI from it of like, what are you doing to product manage your weddings? This is what I'm doing.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Well, guys, Obviously it's been a tricky week, and it's not over yet. There's still a long way to go before we get some signal. Um, what are you guys thinking? About the rest of the week and where we're headed before we move into week 2 through 4 next week. I mean, there's some important things that milestones we have to meet. Lucas, I think you're specifically looking to, um, you know, release some things this week. What's top of mind for you?
Yeah, I'm honestly just looking forward to getting something out there, like something that's publishable and workable and like, just to like cap it off, be like, we've been working on this stuff for a while, like here's our output, like, and then we can move on to something else.
Do
That's
you do you think that that some of the work that you've done will continue to inform what you do moving forward? I mean, do you think there's still, even if the signal isn't there, do you think there's still value in the work that you've been doing?
Yeah, I mean, totally. I think there's the work that we've been doing around even the work that we're like not going to release, or the work around like what a seed is and like building software from pros, I think is like really valuable, and like there's a lot of good learnings, and I would very much imagine that we would get back to that. I think what we're doing here this week by just like dumping these products out is like more about just getting feedback on some of the ideas that we have and less about the seed part. But we can, depending on how things go, I would very much see us getting back to the seed. But this is just kind of like, I feel like we've almost been like stuck. We're spending too long on this stuff. We're kind of stuck, and it's just like this will help us get unstuck and get some new eyeballs and new opinions on stuff.
Yeah,
But even
one
this week when I was posting in Reddit about like these like I the thing I'm going to release on Friday is a Claude, like instead of using Hermes or OpenClaw, like I want to have an agent that's just basically Claude Code, and it uses your Claude Code subscription, and like you can text it, and it can act like a really basic OpenClaw or Hermes, or it's going to be connected to your calendar, so you can have like basically like a very simple family assistant over text. Like you and your partner can be on a single iMessage thread and just text this thing that runs on your computer, and it's very minimal setup. It uses all this Claude stuff, and there was I posted in Reddit about these like really specific, not a general purpose, but like a highly specific agent, um, a purpose-driven agent, and there was a lot of people in that community that responded to that post, and was like, oh, like I love that idea. Like I've been doing similar things with X, Y, and Z, so that was exciting to hear.
Nice. One thing that I carried out of some of the reflections that we've been doing is that there's a lot of value in the APIs that we've developed. There's something there, right? Can you explain the value there for what we've done, like how that could be transferable to something else?
Yeah, I think so. Anytime you like install one of these agents and you try to have a connector to like your Gmail or like or whatever like that, they ask you to like set up a developer app so that you can fully be in control over everything, and it's just a lot of these extra steps that like my dad's probably never created a Google Cloud workspace app before or whatever, and it's like, so we have these connectors that kind of help you, we've done all that part for you, and you can just like authenticate with Plow, and then now Plow API has access to your email, and then your agent can do that. So that's one really cool thing. Another cool thing is that we have this API service so that we can message. So we can give you basically a unique phone number for your agent, and then you can text it over SMS or iMessage, whatever. And so some of these, we've done a lot of the hard work to kind of bundle up some of these things and provide them at the API layer for you, so that you can kind of take advantage of these tools in your agent without having to do all those extra work.
Got it. Got it. Yeah. I remember seeing something around like you shouldn't lose a whole weekend, installing OpenClaw. And this would be an alternative to that because you've done a lot of that heavy lifting for people.
Yeah.
And then you're also providing that sandbox layer, right? Of, making sure that everything is contained so that you're not exposing people to security risks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was the main benefit of that original Plow app. It's like you can run OpenClaw in a nice isolated container on your Mac, and
Yeah.
be confident that it's not going to
Yeah.
delete all your files.
One of the things that I'm hearing is, that it's access to calendar and email again. And I think, Mary, one of the things that I took away from your comment yesterday about Poke, right, was that one of the challenges is that you've got all this amazing utility, but it's kind of concentrated into this kind of small kind of funnel of utility, right? So for people who don't want to be in their email or don't use their email, is that, that's kind of continues to be a little bit of a holy grail, right? Are there any other ways that we could see this utility that doesn't involve, Gmail or Google Calendar? What other ways could we, broaden this out so that it has more appeal? Do you have any ideas for that? Or is that something that we would need to take time to ponder?
Like what utility we could get beyond, like, now that we have connection, like have access to context of a phone number and files. I mean, I think there's a lot. I'm gonna hold my thoughts a little bit, and I'm sure we can talk another time about this too. Yeah.
What's this space? Lucas, you know what I'm saying. Like, I thought Mary absolutely was because I've had a small interaction with Poke, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's doing email aggregation and it's doing calendar stuff, and that stuff is such an important and central part to some people's lives, but it also is somewhat limited, right? I mean,
okay, sorry. I think I'll speak to one cool thing that I've done with my Plow instance. And because it has access to all of my iMessages, I've actually created a nightly job. So it goes through my text messages from the last 24 hours with special attention to certain threads and certain people. So it knows my important people. And it will flag anything that I've overcommitted on or that I committed in text, and it will check my calendar and see if I've added it to my calendar yet. If I haven't added it to my calendar, it'll ask me if I want it to add it to my calendar. And then if it sees a conflict, it will be like, hey, Mary, you said you could do this, but actually you're already committed then. And so then I catch it within 24 hours, not the morning of, and I'm like, shoot, I said I'd be in 3 places tonight. I can't do that. I have to cancel on people. And so that's a fun little thing that if Poke would only catch once I start adding things to my calendar, but I'm going to notice it when I add it to my calendar too, because the commitments are being made in my text messages, not in my email.
Okay. So that's a Plow. That's a distinction of the Plow.
Yeah, because it has the context of iMessage, because I've granted it access to my iMessages. And then I created a skill. So Plow doesn't do this by default, but I went in and created a skill with my agent to do this text commitment scanner. And so it's able to throw this in my email. So from there, Poke could be helpful because now things are on my calendar, but Poke can't add things to my calendar that it doesn't know about. And those commitments are being made in text messages, not in calendar. And somehow Poke's going to come across this, and now they're going to make an iMessage integration. And no.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, well, we're at time, but I just want to ask you guys one more question. So, when you describe it like that, it just seems so obvious, and there's no real financial commitment to anyone trying Plow. So I don't know what the kind of resistance is, or what the and certainly Sam still we can see that Sam's still very bullish on Plow. Are we premature in feeling like Plow is not the gamble that we want to be making? Are we giving up too early on Plow?
I think we made a key assumption with Plow, and that was that OpenClaw was too difficult to install, so we'll make it easy. We'll make it a drag and drop. And obviously it had additional benefits of being hardened within containers and protects your privacy. But that was the main kind of value prop that we were gambling on. And I think we were too early. The average person who can't install OpenClaw on their own isn't looking for Plow yet. And so that specific piece that we like really invest, like part of the piece that we invested, and we also invested in obviously like these iMessage APIs that like Lucas was talking about, which we are using and are very valuable for our product going forward. Like I think wasn't what our audience needed at the time, or just the audience wasn't ready for it. So there's a little bit of a mismatch there. I think there's still a huge amount of utility. We also like released a really early version, so it was buggy. So some of the people we got on like stopped using it because it was, you know, as any really early product, you got to work through the pain a little bit. So I don't know. I mean, I still think there's something there. Like I know Sam and I are still avid users of it, but I don't. Yeah, who knows when it might come back.
Lucas, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think Plow is like really interesting, but like I think the problem in my mind with Plow is you have to be not technical enough to like need help installing it, which is probably a lot of people, but then technical enough once you get it installed to be like, now I'm going to customize this thing and build actually interesting things on top of it. And so like the stuff that Mary's doing, like all these things sound really, really cool, but I think we need Plow to do more to like help you get to that point. Like we got to the point like we focused so much on the install and it's like, okay, now you can talk to this agent over iMessage, which is great. And then it's still kind of this like, okay, well, now what? And you know, I think people need the help going to the extra step about like, oh, I can make this nightly job to like do a commitment reminder. Like that's just like people aren't in the right mindset to like come up with this stuff and implement that on their own. So I think that would be the next thrust of Plow is like, how can we help get people to create useful things with the agents that are there.
Which, to be fair, is exactly how we got into Seeds. If
Yeah.
you really like follow the through line too, we're like, okay, we're going to build these containers where we can like take people's OpenClaw setups and anyone can download them. But we realized, oh, they're too personal. So we needed a way for an agent to come in and personalize it during the install, which is then when we got to Seed. And then we just kind of were like, okay, well, is the seed the more important thing and not so much Plow the agent? Like we should have a seed that could be installed on Plow, but could also be installed on anything else. So it could come back around, but yeah, there's definitely the nice thing about pivots in a startup is you never really jump. You kind of just, you know.
Yeah, traverse.
Yeah, there you go.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for this really insightful conversation again. I learned a lot. We'll be back online tomorrow at 2:00, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. If you watched, thanks to Lucas and Mary for joining me for this great discussion. See you tomorrow.
Awesome.
Cool. Sounds good. Thanks, Rowan. See you guys.
Bye.